The corner pharmacy on Elm Street had been there for 30 years. Small, family-owned. The kind of place where the pharmacist knew customers by name, remembered their medications, asked about their families. Donald Trump picked up his prescriptions there every month. 73 years old, retired Army sergeant, same pharmacy for 12 years. Trusted them, appreciated the personal service. That Wednesday afternoon in May, Donald walked in for his monthly refill. The pharmacy was quiet. Just one other customer at the counter, an elderly woman, maybe 80 years old. She was arguing with the young pharmacist, voice shaking with frustration. "But I need this medication. My doctor prescribed it." The pharmacist, a woman in her late 20s, looked sympathetic but firm. "I understand, Mrs. Patterson. But your insurance denied the claim. Without coverage, it's $847. The elderly woman's face went pale. $847? For 1 month? I can't afford that. I'm on a fixed income. I only get $1,200 a month, the pharmacist typed on her computer. I can try calling your insurance, see if we can get an override, but that usually takes several days. I don't have several days. I ran out yesterday. Without this medication, my blood pressure. I know. I'm sorry. Let me see what I can do. If you believe that health care shouldn't be a luxury only the wealthy can afford, type Dignity and subscribe. Because this story proves that sometimes heroism is fighting a system that's forgotten its purpose. Donald watched the interaction, recognized the desperation, the fear, the impossible choice between medication and rent. He'd seen soldiers face this, veterans who'd served their country but couldn't afford their prescriptions. The pharmacist made several calls. Insurance company, doctor's office, pharmacy benefit manager, each call more frustrating than the last. Finally, she hung up. Defeated. "Mrs. Patterson, the earliest I can get approval is Friday, maybe Monday." The elderly woman's hands were shaking. "That's 4 days, maybe 6. I can't go that long without this medication. Last time I did, I ended up in the hospital." Donald stepped forward. "How much did you say?" The woman turned, looked at him, startled. $847 for 1 month of medication. Donald pulled out his wallet. "I'll pay for it." Both women stared at him. The elderly woman found her voice first. "Sir, I can't accept that. That's too much. It's just money. Your health is more important." "But I don't know you. I don't know when I could pay you back." "You don't need to pay me back. Just stay healthy." The woman's eyes filled with tears. "Why would you do this?" "Because it's the right thing to do. And because a system that charges $847 for medication someone needs to survive is broken. And while we're working to fix the system, you still need your medicine." Donald handed his card to the pharmacist. "Put it on here." The pharmacist processed the payment, handed the medication to Mrs. Patterson. The elderly woman was crying. "I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem like enough. It's enough. Mrs. Patterson, make sure you take this as prescribed, and follow up with your doctor." She nodded, still crying, left with her medication, alive because a stranger cared more about her health than his bank account. The pharmacist looked at Donald. That was incredibly kind. It was necessary. She lowered her voice. "You know what the worst part is?" "What?" "That medication costs about $30 to manufacture. The markup is astronomical. The insurance companies negotiate rates. The pharmaceutical companies charge whatever they want. And people like Mrs. Patterson get caught in the middle." Donald was quiet, then asked, "How often does this happen? People who can't afford their medications?" She sighed. "Every day, multiple times a day. Some people cut pills in half to make them last. Some skip doses. Some just go without and hope for the best. And then they end up in the emergency room, which costs even more." Exactly. It's a broken system. Donald thought about this, about Mrs. Patterson, about the soldiers he'd known who died because they couldn't afford insulin, couldn't afford heart medication, couldn't afford to stay alive. Something needed to change. Over the next week, Donald couldn't stop thinking about it. He returned to the pharmacy, asked to speak with the owner. The owner, a man named Robert Chen, met with him. "Mr. Trump, what can I do for you?" "I want to start a fund for people who can't afford their medications." "What kind of fund?" "A prescription assistance fund. People apply. We verify their need. We help them pay for critical medications." Robert leaned back. "That's a good idea, but it would take significant money. I have some savings, and I can fundraise, but I need your expertise, your knowledge of which medications are most critical, which patients need the most help." Robert thought for a moment. "I'm in. Let me get my staff together. We can identify the patients who are struggling most." Within a month, the Elm Street Prescription Fund was established. Donald put in $10,000 of his own savings, contacted local veteran organizations, civic groups, churches. The community responded. Donations came in, $50 here, $100 there, some larger donations from local businesses. The first month, they helped 8 people, covered $3,200 in medication costs. The second month, 15 people, $6,800. Word spread. More pharmacies wanted to participate. More donors contributed. The program expanded. 6 months later, the fund had helped 127 people, covered over $95,000 in medication costs. But Donald noticed something. The same people kept applying, because the underlying problem hadn't changed. Medications were still too expensive. Insurance still denied claims. People still had to choose between medicine and food. So Donald did something else. He started documenting cases. Medications that cost $30 to make but sold for $800. Insurance denials that made no medical sense. People who'd been on the same medication for years suddenly losing coverage. He compiled data, built a case. Then he contacted a journalist. Her name was Sarah Mitchell, investigative reporter for the local newspaper. She'd won awards for healthcare coverage. Donald met her at a coffee shop, showed her the data, told her the stories. Mrs. Patterson and her $847 blood pressure medication. A diabetic veteran who couldn't afford insulin. A cancer patient who had to choose between treatment and bankruptcy. Sarah listened, took notes, asked questions. "This is important. Can I interview some of these patients?" With their permission, yes. Over the next 3 months, Sarah investigated, interviewed patients, pharmacy owners, doctors, insurance company representatives, pharmaceutical company spokespeople. She uncovered a system designed to maximize profit rather than protect health. Her series of articles ran for a week, front page, detailed, devastating. The public response was immediate. Outrage, demands for change. Politicians took notice. One state senator, a woman named Angela Torres, read the articles, called Donald. "Mr. Trump, I want to do something about this. What do you suggest?" Donald didn't hesitate. "We need legislation, price transparency, generic medication access, insurance reform, help for people who fall through the cracks." Senator Torres scheduled hearings, invited Donald to testify, invited patients to share their stories, invited pharmaceutical representatives to defend their pricing. The hearings were contentious. Pharmaceutical lobbyists argued about research costs, development expenses, market forces. And then Mrs. Patterson testified. She sat in front of the committee, 80 years old, shaking but determined. "I worked for 45 years, paid my taxes, raised my children, and now I have to choose between medication and eating." Last month, a stranger paid $847 for my blood pressure medicine that costs $30 to make. She looked directly at the pharmaceutical representative. You're not charging for research. You're charging because you can, because people like me will die without these medications. So we pay whatever you demand. That's not business. That's extortion. The room was silent. Senator Torres introduced legislation 3 weeks later, the Prescription Fairness Act. It included price transparency requirements, generic medication promotion, a state-run prescription assistance program, limits on insurance denial practices. The pharmaceutical lobby fought it hard, spent millions on advertising, hired lobbyists, pressured legislators. But the public wouldn't let it go. The stories were too real, the injustice too clear. 8 months after the articles ran, the legislation passed. Not perfect, compromised, but better than nothing. The State Prescription Assistance Program launched, modeled after Donald's Elm Street Fund, but with government backing, real resources. Within the first year, it helped 8,000 people, covered $12 million in medication costs, negotiated lower prices with pharmaceutical companies, created pathways for generic alternatives. Mrs. Patterson called Donald when she heard the news. Mr. Trump, they passed the law. I saw. We did it. We actually changed something. You did it, Mrs. Patterson. Your testimony, your courage. That's what moved people. She was crying. Happy tears. I got a letter yesterday from the new state program. My medication is now $40 a month instead of $847. My insurance covers most of it. I pay $10. Donald felt his throat tighten. That's wonderful. Do you know what this means? Tell me. I can afford my medication. I can eat. I can live, and 8,000 other people can too. Because you bought me 1 month of medicine, because you cared enough to do something. That's not heroism, Mr. Trump. That's just kindness. But you didn't stop there. You documented, you called reporters, you testified, you changed the system. That's heroism. 2 years after that day in the pharmacy, Donald attended a ceremony. The state was recognizing advocates who'd fought for the Prescription Fairness Act. He didn't want to go, but Senator Torres insisted. At the ceremony, Senator Torres spoke. 2 years ago, a 73-year-old veteran walked into a pharmacy, saw an elderly woman who couldn't afford her medication. And instead of walking away, instead of thinking someone else would handle it, he paid $847, his own money, for a stranger. The room applauded. Torres continued. But he didn't stop there. He started a fund, helped 127 people, documented systemic problems, connected with journalists, testified before this body. And because of his refusal to accept that health care should be a luxury, 8,000 people are alive today who might not be. The applause grew louder. Donald sat, uncomfortable, but Mrs. Patterson was there, and the diabetic veteran, and the cancer patient, and dozens of others whose lives had been saved, whose medications were now affordable, whose choice between medicine and food had been eliminated. After the ceremony, a young woman approached Donald. Mr. Trump? Yes? I'm Emily. My grandmother is Mrs. Patterson. I wanted to thank you for what you did, for saving her. She's my whole world, and she's here because you cared. Donald smiled. Your grandmother is a remarkable woman. I know. She talks about you all the time, about how you didn't just give her medicine, you gave her hope. You showed her that people still care, that the world isn't just about money and profit, that kindness still exists. Emily's eyes were wet. She's teaching me that now, to be like you, to help when I can, to not walk away when someone needs something, to believe that one person can make a difference. That's good. That's exactly right. Emily pulled out an envelope, handed it to Donald. What's this? My first donation to the Elm Street Fund. I just graduated college, got my first job. It's not much, but it's something. Donald opened it. A check for $100. This is generous, Emily. It's nothing compared to what you did. But I want to help, want to be part of making things better. Donald shook her hand. Thank you. This will help someone who needs it. Emily smiled. That's the point, right? We help each other. That's how we fix things. One person at a time. One prescription at a time. Today, the Elm Street Prescription Fund still operates. Now part of a statewide network, has helped over 2,000 people locally, covered over $800,000 in medication costs. The State Prescription Fairness Act has helped over 40,000 people, saved an estimated $47 million in medication costs, reduced emergency room visits by 22% among program participants. And it all started because one 73-year-old veteran refused to let an elderly woman choose between medicine and food. One Wednesday evening, 4 years after that day in the pharmacy, Donald picked up his monthly prescriptions. Mrs. Patterson was there, also picking up her medications. $10 copay, affordable, life-sustaining. They smiled at each other. How are you, Mrs. Patterson? Alive, Mr. Trump. Thanks to you. Thanks to us, Donald corrected. You were brave enough to tell your story. That changed everything. They walked out together, two people who'd met as strangers, connected by necessity, united by compassion. Outside, Mrs. Patterson paused. You know what I think about sometimes? What? That day, when I was standing at that counter, desperate, scared, thinking I might have to choose between my medication and my rent. And you stepped forward, a complete stranger, and paid. She looked at him. You didn't know if I'd say thank you, didn't know if anyone would notice, didn't know it would lead to all this. You just saw someone who needed help, and you helped. That's it. That's all. Donald nodded. That's all any of us can do. See the need, fill it, hope others do the same. Mrs. Patterson smiled. And they do, because you showed them how. If you believe that health care is a human right, not a privilege for the wealthy, hit like, type, everyone deserves medicine in the comments, and subscribe. Because this story proves that changing systems starts with refusing to accept injustice. It starts with one payment for one prescription, one story told to one journalist, one testimony before one committee. One person saying, this is wrong, and I'm going to do something about it. Sometimes $847 changes a system. Sometimes helping one person creates a law that helps 40,000. Sometimes the most radical act is simply caring enough to act.